Your hands can be placed on your lap or on your knees. And relax your whole body. Sau khi chúng ta chỉnh tư thế xong, bây giờ chúng ta chú tâm về hơi thở. Khi mình thở vào, mình nhận biết đây là hơi thở vào. Khi mình thở ra, mình nhận biết đây là hơi thở ra. Vào, ra. Mình để ý những hơi thở ra vào. Mình thở tự nhiên và mình không cần dùng ép hơi thở. So once you establish your posture, you can then become aware of our breathing. As you breathe in, you're aware that this is your in breath. As you breathe out, you're aware that this is your out breath. In, out. Breathe naturally, and there's no need to force or control your breathing. Mình không cần suy nghĩ bất cứ gì về quá khứ hoặc lo về tương lai. Mình trở lại với hơi thở, trở lại trong giây phút hiện tại. We don't have to think about anything else in this moment. We don't have to think about the past or worry about the future. But come back to your breathing. Come back to the present moment. Mình sẽ bắt đầu buổi ngồi thiền bằng 3 tiếng chuông. We'll begin the session with 3 sounds of the bell. Thở vào, tôi biết tôi đang thở vào. Thở ra, tôi biết tôi đang thở ra. Vào, ra. Breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. In, out. vào ý thức toàn thân, thở ra buông thư toàn thân. Ý thức buông thư. Aware of my body, I breathe in. Breathing out, I relax my whole body. Aware of my body, relaxing my body. Thở vào tâm tĩnh lặng, thở ra miệng mỉm cười. Tĩnh lặng, mỉm cười. Breathing in, my mind is calm. Breathing out, I smile. Calm, smiling. Please take some time to release and massage your legs. Và xin nhắc nhở đại chúng, vì nào có cell phone xin nhớ tắt cell phone hoặc chuyển qua chế độ room để mình giữ buổi lễ thanh tịnh và trang nghiêm. A reminder for those who have a cell phone, please make sure you have turned off your cell phone or you've switched it to vibrate mode so that we keep the atmosphere of the ceremony serene. Thank you.
xuống chắp tay và mở kinh trang số 0. Please kneel and open chanting book to page 0. Trầm hương đôn sáu ngã mười phương, nguyện nguyện kính đức nghiêm từ vô lượng, cầu cầu xin chứng tâm thành chúng con, vần vần khói kết mây lành cúng dường, đạo nhiệm màu đã lan truyền nơi cùng nơi, nhờ chân lý chúng sanh đều thoát luân hồi, đồng quy kinh quỳ dưới đại sen, dẫn đóa thơm tinh khiết màu thắm tươi cành, đài quang minh sáng huy hoàng trang nghiêm, ơn mười phương điều ngự hào quang an lành, nhìn đạo uyển chuyên soi khắp cùng quần sanh, Phật đạo đồng cùng nhau Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Xin cho khói trầm thơm kết thành mây năm sắc, dâng lên khắp mười phương cúng dường vô lượng Phật, vô lượng chư Bồ Tát, cùng chư thánh hiền tăng nơi pháp giới dung thông, kết đài sen rực rỡ, nguyện làm bạn đồng hành trên con đường giác ngộ, xin mọi loài chúng sanh từ bỏ cõi u mê, theo đường giới định tuệ, quay về trong tỉnh thức. Chúng con kính dân hương cúng dường lên Phật và chư vị Bồ Tát. Hôm nay chúng con thành tâm cung tụ Phật tiền, chỉ thành dân nén tâm hương cúng dường tam bảo, kỷ niệm tiết trung thu và hồi hướng công đức kỳ siêu cho các nạn nhân. Ngày 11 tháng 9 năm 2001 và kỳ siêu cho chư hương linh Hoa Vạn, Nguyện Văn Ngọc Ngân, Nguyện Đức Brian Lam, Lưu Quang, Lâm Đan, Cao Erin, Dave Willie, Christine Chen, Huỳnh Ta Chỉ Cường, Đoàn Thị Ban Pháp Danh Trúc Nguyệt, Nguyện Văn Hoa Pháp Danh Thiện Hải, Lê Văn Nam Pháp Danh Minh Thiên, Vũ Thị Nga, Trần Tú Lan Pháp Danh Tình Vi, Độ Thị Mỹ Hồng, Nguyện Phượng Loan Pháp Danh Diệu Tâm, Lê Văn Đàm, Nguyện Văn Quang Pháp Danh Minh Đức, Quách lương quanh thì hai quách bồng mộng bó nguyện thì Nga phạm danh diệu liên Alice Palmer Chen Sui. Nguyện tất cả chương linh nương nhờ tam bảo lực nghe kinh thính pháp phát tâm quý tam bảo cầu vãng sanh tịnh độ. Lại nguyện hồi hướng công đức kỳ án phần từ võ thanh vân hành cảnh bày chín tuổi. Nguyện phận tử hiện đời nghiệp chướng tiêu trừ sanh thuần từ an một hậu lâm chung vàng sanh tịnh độ. Thử hồi hướng công đức kỳ nguyện kỳ an giải bình phận tự nguyện thì hỏa phạm danh diệu lan trần lý văn chân nhà đàm thi bền diệu minh. Hồ thị vùng từ chuyên đoan tuân kiệt huệ phước cao nhung nguyện thì kim phượng từ hòa. Lễ thì cải trần thì tuyết huệ hoài diệu tú nguyện tô hùng hiệp trần thì một tất cả các phần tử cùng tất cả chúng con thân bằng quyến thuộc. Thân tâm thường an lạc bình khổ tiêu trừ giả đạo bình an các tường như nguyện. Ngưỡng mong oai đức từ bi quan lâm đạo tràng chứng minh gia hộ. Nam mô hương cúng dường Bồ Tát. Nam mô chứng minh sư Bồ Tát. Nam mô đạo tràng hội thượng Phật Bồ Tát. Tâm Thế Tôn mài trần chẳng bần thân của Ngài vô lượng phước lành. Từ bi cứu khổ độ sanh chúng con đành lễ chí thành quy. Nhưng tâm kinh lễ Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Nhưng tâm kinh lễ liệt vì tổ sư qua các thời đại. Từ Tây Trúc Việt Nam Đông đổ đến hải ngoại. Nhưng tâm kinh lễ mười phương ba đời tất cả chư Phật tôn pháp hiền thánh tăng. Mời đại chúng an tọa. Please take a seat. Kính mời đại chúng mở kinh trang số 4. Please turn the chanting book to page 4. sa ba ga va tô a ra tô sa ma sambuddhassa. Nam mô tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Nam mô tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. The Dharma is deep and lovely. We now have a chance to see, study, and to practice it. We vow to realize its true meaning. Nam mô Đức Bổn Sư Bổn Thích Ca Mâu Ni. Nam mô Đức Bổn Sư Bổn Thích Ca Mâu Ni. Nam mô Đức Bổn Sư Bổn Thích Ca Mâu Ni. Pháp Bổn Cao siêu màu nhiệm cơ duyên mấy được thọ trì. Xin nguyện đi vào biển tuệ tinh thông giáo nghĩa huyền vi. Xin đại chúng lắng lòng nghe Kinh A Nậu La Độ. Đây là những điều tôi đã được nghe hồi bụt còn ở tại tu viện Trùng Cát trong rừng Đại Lâm, không xa thành phố Tỳ Xá Ly. Lúc bấy giờ Đại Đức A Nậu La Độ đang cư trú tại một am trong rừng, không xa nơi Phật ở. Một hôm, có một số các du sĩ ngoại đạo đến thăm Đại Đức A Nậu La Độ. Sau khi trao đổi những lời chào hỏi và chúc tụng, họ hỏi Đại Đức: Này hiền hữu A Nậu La Độ, Đức Như Lai mà người ta tôn xưng là bậc đã chứng ngộ quả vị cao nhất, thế nào cũng đã nói và giảng dạy cho hiền hữu nghe về 4 mệnh đề sau đây. Một là sau khi Như Lai chết, Đức Như Lai vẫn còn. 2 là sau khi Như Lai chết, Đức Như Lai không còn. 3 là sau khi Như Lai chết, Đức Như Lai vừa còn vừa không còn. 4 là sau khi chết, Đức Như Lai vừa không còn vừa không còn. Hiền hữu nói cho chúng tôi nghe đi. Đại Đức A Nậu La Độ trả lời: Này các hiền hữu, Đức Như Lai bậc tôn quý trên đời, người đã từng chứng ngộ quả vị cao nhất, chưa bao giờ từng nói và giảng giải trong khuôn khổ 4 mệnh đề mà các hiền hữu vừa đưa ra. Nghe Đại Đức nói như thế, các vị du sĩ ngoại đạo nói với nhau: Có thể ông thầy tu này mới xuất gia, hoặc giả nếu ông ta đã đi tu lâu rồi thì ông ta chỉ là một kẻ ngu độn. Không vừa ý với Đại Đức, họ bỏ đi. Sau khi các du sĩ đi rồi, Đại Đức A Nậu La Độ suy nghĩ: Nếu các vị du sĩ ngoại đạo này cứ tiếp tục hỏi ta như thế, thì ta phải trả lời thế nào cho đúng với sự thật và không sai với ý của Phật? Ta sẽ trả lời như thế nào cho đúng với chánh pháp và để đừng bị người đồng đạo chê trách? Rồi Đại Đức A Nậu La Độ đi tới nơi Phật ở, cung kính làm lễ, và thăm hỏi người. Sau đó Đại Đức trình lên Phật những điều đã xảy ra. Phật hỏi: Này Đại Đức A Nậu La Độ, thầy nghĩ sao? Có thể tìm Như Lai trong hình sắc không? Bạch Đức Thế Tôn: Không. Có thể tìm Như Lai ngoài hình sắc không? Bạch Thế Tôn: Không. Có thể tìm Như Lai trong cảm thọ, tri giác, tâm hành và nhận thức không? Bạch Thế Tôn: Không. Có thể tìm Như Lai ngoài cảm thọ, tri giác, tâm hành và nhận thức không? Bạch Thế Tôn: Không. Này Đại Đức A Nậu La Độ, thầy có nghĩ rằng Như Lai là một cái gì vượt ra khỏi cảm thọ, tri giác, tâm hành và nhận thức không? Bạch Thế Tôn: Không. Này A Nậu La Độ, đi tìm Như Lai ngay trong khi Như Lai còn sống đây mà còn không tìm ra được, thì thử hỏi đi tìm Như Lai sau khi Như Lai đã ẩn diệt trong khuôn khổ 4 mệnh đề: còn, không còn, vừa không còn, vừa còn, vừa không còn. Đó có phải là một chuyện có thể làm được hay không? Bạch Thế Tôn: Không. Hay lắm. Này hay lắm thầy A Nậu La Độ, từ trước đến nay Như Lai chỉ giảng dạy về khổ và con đường diệt khổ.
Anuruddha Discourse. I heard these words of the Buddha one time when the Lord was staying in the gabled house in the great forest near the town of Vasali. At that time, the Venerable Anuruddha was staying in a hermitage in the forest not far from where the Buddha was. One day, a group of recluses came to see the Venerable Anuruddha, and after exchanging greetings and courtesies, asked the Venerable monk, Venerable Anuruddha, the Tathagata is often praised for having reached the highest fruits of awakening. He must have explained to you his understanding of these 4 propositions. First, after death, the Tathagata continues to exist. Second, after death, the Tathagata ceases to exist. Third, after death, the Tathagata both continues and ceases to exist. Fourth, after death, the Tathagata neither continues nor ceases to exist. Please tell us which of these propositions is true. The Venerable Anuruddha replied, Friends, the Tathagata, the world-honored one, the one who has realized the highest fruit of awakening, has never proposed or spoken about these 4 propositions. When they heard the Venerable Anuruddha's reply, the recluses said, It is possible that this monk has just been ordained, or if he was ordained some time ago, he must be of slow wits. Not satisfied with Venerable Anuruddha's answer, they left him, thinking that he was either newly ordained or of little intelligence. When the recluses had gone, the Venerable Anuruddha thought, if recluses continue to ask me more of these questions, how should I answer so as to speak the truth and not misrepresent the teachings of the Buddha? How should I answer so as to be in harmony with the right Dharma and not to be criticized by the adherents of the Buddha's path? Then Anuruddha went to where the Buddha was staying, bowed to the Buddha, spoke words of the greetings, and then told the Buddha what had happened. The Buddha asked him, What do you think, Anuruddha? Can you find the Tathagata in form? No, world-honored one. Can you find the Tathagata outside of form? No, world-honored one. Can you find the Tathagata in feelings, perceptions, mental formations, or consciousness? No, world-honored one. Can you find the Tathagata outside of feelings, perceptions, mental formations, or consciousness? No, world-honored one. Well then, Anuruddha, do you think that the Tathagata transcends form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness? No, world-honored one. Anuruddha, if you cannot find the Tathagata even while he is still alive, can you find the Tathagata within these 4 propositions? After death, the Tathagata continues to exist. After death, the Tathagata ceases to exist. After death, the Tathagata both continues and ceases to exist. After death, the Tathagata neither continues nor ceases to exist. No world-honored one. Quite so, Anuruddha. The Tathagata has only spoken and taught in relation to one thing, suffering and the end of suffering.
Đại chúng mở kinh trang số 13 hướng về kính lạy page 13, turning to the Tathagata. Hướng về kính lạy Đức Như Lai, Ngài đang chiếu soi biển trần khổ, xin Đức từ bi xót thương nhiếp thọ. Chúng con hôm nay khẩn thiết nguyện quay về, đệ tử chúng con bốn ơn mang nặng, chưa diệm bảo đền, nhìn ra ba cõi bốn bên, thấy muôn loài còn chìm trong khổ nạn, bỗng dừng mình biết rằng dù đã quay đầu vẫn thấy rằng bên giác còn xa, mây thấy trong cõi ta bà đâu cùng có cánh tay Đức từ bi cứu độ. Nay chúng con một lòng nguyện quay về nương tựa, nguyện xin làm từ Đức Như Lai, hồn nhất thân tâm quỳ dưới phần đài, buông hết trần tâm một lòng quy kính, xin tiếp nhận diệu pháp tình duyên tu học mỗi ngày, nuôi giới định lớn lên quả Bồ Đề, thành tựu chúng. Biết rõ tự thân nghiệp chướng còn nặng, phước đức còn mong manh, tri giác vẫn thường hay sai lầm, tuệ căn vẫn còn chưa vững chãi, tâm nhiệm mô còn dễ phát khởi, văn tư tu chưa thật sự vững bền. Giờ phút này ngưỡng vọng đài sen, nắm vóc cùng gieo xuống, mong lượng từ mở rộng. Chúng con xin trải hết lòng ra, đệ tử chúng con từ muôn kiếp vì không nhân nên ta chạy theo trần cảnh, ba nghiệp nhiệm mô đắm trong tham ái mê mờ, ghét ghen hờn dân. Nay nhờ chuông đại hồng vua ban tình mong, quyết một lòng làm mời thân tâm, bao nhiêu tội ác lỡ lầm, nguyện xin hoàn toàn gột sạch. Chúng con giờ phút này đây làm nguyện sâu dày, xa lìa tâm khí suốt đời về nương tựa tăng thân, xin buồn đưa cảnh thái ân gần, từ bi nâng đỡ nguyện trong ý thiền tâm. Nấu cơm rửa bát nằm ngồi làm viên, dàn áo kính thanh trì sẽ đem về an làng, mỗi nụ cười sẽ tỏa chiếu thành thơi, sống chánh niệm trong mọi phút giây, là chỉ dạy cho người thấy con đường lót. Nguyện thấy được tịnh độ dưới mọi bước chân mình, nguyện tiếp xúc bàn môn trong mọi khi hành sự, bước trên thần địa thở giữa chân không, thắp lên trí sáng diệu tâm, màn vô minh quét sạch. Lòng không liên tiếc, thân không đau nhức, ý không hôn mê, chánh niệm rõ ràng, tĩnh lặng sáu căn, buông bỏ báo thân như vào thiền định. Nếu cần thọ sinh kiếp khác, sẽ lại làm đệ tử đức, tiếp theo sự nghiệp cứu đời, đưa mọi loài về bến giác, thành tựu ba thân, sử dụng năm băng sáu thần thông, hóa hiện ngàn hoàng. Tất cả đều đưa lên bờ không thôi chuyện, thế giới vô tận, nghiệp và phiền não đều cùng vô tận, nguyện con cũng thế sẽ là vô tận. Đây với xin lại buồn phát nguyện, tu trì công đức, chia sẻ với muôn loài hữu tình, để bảo được trọn vẹn bốn ân, và giáo hóa khắp nơi chúng rồi. Giảng lớn. Đại chúng mở trang 22, page 22. Nguyện ngày an lành, đêm an lành, ngày đêm thời đều an lành, an lành trong mọi giây mọi tiêu tai gian kiết tường, nam mô Đức Bồ. Tiêu tai gian kiết tường, xin hồi hướng cho chúng sanh mọi miền pháp môn, xin nguyện hồng ơn nghĩa, xin nguyện đền phiền não, xin nguyện đoàn hòa buộc, xin chứng nên. Mời đại chúng xả chân. Please stretch out your legs. In gratitude to our ancestors and parents, we bow deeply to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha in 10 directions. Đệ tử chúng con nhớ cha mẹ sinh thành liệt vị tổ tiên, cúi đầu kính lễ tam bảo khắp 10 phương. In gratitude to all teachers and our friends, relatives who support us in daily life, we bow deeply to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha in 10 directions. Đệ tử chúng con nhớ các bậc sư trưởng những vị đã tác thành cho, cúi đầu kính lễ tam bảo khắp 10 phương. In gratitude to all living beings, we bow deeply to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha in 10 directions. Đệ tử chúng con nhớ mọi loài chúng sanh, cúi đầu kính lễ tam bảo khắp 10 phương. Kính mời đại chúng an tọa. Please take a seat.
Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Con kính bạch thầy, kính thưa đại chúng, trước khi bắt đầu buổi giảng bằng tiếng Việt, chúng con bằng tiếng Anh, chúng con xin kính mời đại chúng cùng chắp tay niệm Phật. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Nam Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Dear Thai, dear brothers and sisters, today is September 11, 2022, and we're here at the Trúc Lâm Monastery. First off, I'd like to apologize for my nasally voice. I think it's the weather is slowly transitioning from really hot weather to cooler weather. So I will try my best to share today. Today we'd like to also send our condolences to the Queen that have recently passed last Friday. But also today is September 11, 2022, and 21 years after 9/11. So today we also send our prayers and energy to the ones, the countless lives that have passed away during that day. I still remember that day when I was in school, when the event occurred on 9/11. Maybe if you're younger than 21 years old, then you might not know, but during this event, it was quite a very world event. I remember I was just a little kid in the library, and I think I was probably playing Pokemon cards or something back then, and all of a sudden everyone was just running towards the library. And in the library we had one television, and everyone was just gathered around listening to the news. So I still have remember that day very well. So this past summer, it's been quite an eventful summer here at the monastery. Of course, during COVID, we didn't have a lot of people come during our events, but this year we opened up, and we had retreats once again. Starting off back in May, June, we had to help prepare for the retreats. So a lot of volunteers came to Westlock to prepare especially the beds. The monastics, the lay had to work together to prepare the registration, the place to live, etc. And in July, from the 18th to the 22nd, we had a youth retreat, and we had about 150 young people come to the retreat. We had 150, and that was the most we have ever had in any year since we have hosted the youth retreat. One of my brothers came up yesterday to Westlock to visit, and they were looking at the group photo of the 150, and he back then he also attended the retreats, but there was only maybe 20 or 30. So we can see that every year our retreats are growing. Some monasteries have 20 to 30 monastics, but here we just have a couple of us, maybe between 5 and 10 monastics to run the whole retreat. Of course, we have additional lay friends that would help us in organizing this retreat as well. So I'd like to say, thank you for our young friends for coming to the retreat. We know that during COVID, that we didn't have enough people coming because we're closed due to the restrictions. So this summer youth retreat was quite, I think it was quite nourishing for the monastics. I remember I was just sitting on a bench and listening to the kids playing basketball, and they were just laughing and smiling. And I kind of reflected, saying, this is the first time in 2 or 3 years that I was able to sit there and listen to the laughters of the young people playing. And of course, during the summer youth retreat, we have scheduled activities for young people to follow, starting from 7 a.m. to all the way to 10 p.m. And in this retreat, we had an emphasis on being together. During COVID, we were separated, but in this retreat we want everyone to come together and play together, practice together, and we also talked about different topics. So some of the monastics, 3 monastics were sharing about consumption, for example, and another 3 were talking about the true meaning of love and kindness. So, in this youth retreat, I think it's quite important for young people to attend. After, sometimes we always meet the youth retreat who have, some people who have already attended the youth retreat come back years later, and now they're married, they're doctors, they're engineers, etc. They're holding various jobs, and they always, come, and they always, whenever they go to Westlock, they always remember the good times they have had when they were being with other like-minded people. So that was the summer youth retreat, followed by the annual adult monastic retreat. So during these, it was from August 1st to the 10th, and that's when we had a retreat for adults from all over the world. We had about 500 to 700 people come and attend the adult retreat. Before COVID, we always had thousands, about 1,000 people come, but this year we limited about almost half, just to have more space in the retreat. And of course, during this 10-day retreat, the meaning behind this retreat is that adults from all over, people would come here and practice, and because of their life, they're not able to become like us, 24/7 monastics. So they come and attend this 10-day retreat in order to kind of sow the seeds of being a monastic, and they can practice being a monastic for 10 days. And then during these 10 days, you would be given, a bowl, a robe, and you would practice the schedule, and there would be, talks, meditation, chanting throughout the day. And afterwards, recently, we just came back from the opening ceremony and also Parents' Day at our British Columbia branch temple. We have a temple that just opened in Kelowna, British Columbia. So if you ever have a chance to, I don't know, maybe some of you drive through to Vancouver, you can also stop by our Kelowna temple, which is called the Okanagan Buddhist Cultural Center. And there we have, it's a church, and that we have bought the property and kind of renovated, added some buildings to it, and now it's been transformed into a temple, a Buddhist temple. And on September 4th was the opening ceremony of the temple, and also we celebrated Parents' Day. And we had a lot of government officials that came by and attended the ceremony. And I was really surprised of how long they stayed for the event, because usually they would stay for a couple minutes, maybe 10 minutes at most, and then they would leave. But the government from City of Kelowna, there was some police officers that came by and attended the whole event, almost 2 to 3 hours. And afterwards, Tai gave a tour for them inside the church and showing them what the temple was about. For example, Tai was showing about the meaning of the big bell, the drums, the Buddha, etc. And at our Okanagan Cultural Center, we have there's always events every Sunday hosted by the lay community. But of course, once in a while, the monastics would fly down to host events as well. So that's kind of a recap on what has been occurring here here at the Trúc Lâm and also the Westlock Meditation Center. Next Friday, we're coming back to our regular programming, to our regular Friday English classes. Again, we stopped in July and to take a break, but now we're returning to our Friday English classes on September next Friday. So if you like to learn about the practice, meditation, please feel free to drop by every Friday from 6:30 to 8 p.m. 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. So that is a recap of the summer. As fall is coming, I know most of me, I know for myself, I'm already beginning to take out my winter clothes, my sweaters, anything that will keep me warm for the fall and the winter. I think most of you will be doing the same in the coming weeks. The fall, I think, always represents a return to our, especially young people who are going back to school, going back to our habits. In Buddhism, we always talk about our habits, and there's a story about how the Buddha shared a story about this man who was in a village, and he was riding a horse, and the villagers were asking him, "Where are you going?" And of course he said that, "I just go where the horse goes." And I think in most of us, we have a lot of tendencies or habits, and that some of them are good. For example, if you come to the temple every Sunday, that becomes a really good habit. If you come back, if you're a young person, you come back from school, you always before you leave school, and when you go back home, you always say, "I'm home," to your parents. You always tell your parents when you're going to school, and when you come back, you say to your parents, "Oh, I am back at home now." So we always have different types of habits. If we get angry, we may have a tendency if we're angry at someone, we may have a tendency to lash out at that person at that moment. But of course, in Buddhism, we learn to transform those quote-unquote negative habits in us. And of course, habits that we have already nourished in ourselves, for example, going to temple every Sunday, or saying hello. If you're a young person, saying hello to your parents, to seniors, that becomes a habit, a good habit. So I remember we had a novice a long time ago, and he went to Thai, and he was crying. He was like, I'm so sick and tired of going to school and coming back and doing homework, and the next day I have to repeat the same thing for the next 4 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I think that when we have structure and order, it becomes a quality that we can learn from. For example, if there's on the road, if you're driving, there's no lights, it'd be very chaotic. There's no order, no structure. There's cars that have to stop so the other side can go, and vice versa. If you're a green light, then you go, and the other side has to stop. So I think even in the temple, there's always structure and order. There's always a schedule of activities that we have to follow along. And just like in our daily life, we have a schedule for ourselves. Because if we don't have a schedule, then we don't really keep up with that schedule, and then we can become a little bit lazy, and we kind of veer off and do other things. So if you're going to school and then coming back, and then you have a set time for dinner, you have to be there for dinner. For example, if dinner was 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., you would and if you have homework or something you have at school, you always try to make an effort to come back and to have dinner with your family, for example. Or if you have, if you're sleeping, in the summer we have to sleep late because, we don't have school, so you may go to sleep at maybe 1 or 2 a.m. But of course now you have school again, so you have to come back to a proper sleeping time, for example, 10 p.m., 11 p.m. so you can have enough energy for the next day for school. So that is just something I was thinking about during the fall season. So back in March, we were talking about the vows of Samantabhadra. Samantabhadra is one of the 4 major bodhisattvas, and he is always depicted on elephant. So I was talking about the first 6 vows, and I'd like to continue to finish the vows of Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. So again, to recap, the first vow of the Samantabhadra Bodhisattva was to pay homage to all Buddhas in the past, present, and future in the 10 directions. So it's kind of essentially saying that all of us have the Buddha nature, have the ability to awaken, just like the Buddha. So even if you have, it's easily to love the ones that are in your family, the ones that are close to you. But we have to practice sending that love even further. People who we don't know, people maybe our colleagues, co-workers, but also even the people we despise, the people we don't like being around. Maybe they're going through something, maybe they have a lot of deep suffering, and they're not able to learn the methods that you may have learned to transform that anger, etc. So here in the first one is essentially saying that we respect all beings because all beings have the capacity to awaken, just like the Buddha. The second one is to praise the Tathagata, so which is kind of saying seeing the good in all of us. We have we always say that we're perfect, but we're perfect in our own light. We only see us as perfect, but everyone else may not see it as that. That's why we always in the monastery we always talk about the Sangha eye. The Sangha eye is always brighter than the individual eye, because with our own eye can only see one perspective, whereas the community, the Sangha, can see all different sides. So with that, it's easily to see the bad in all of us, but we also have to recognize that in all of us there is good. There might be a lot of good, but there can be also a little bit of good. But so we just have to shift our perspective and knowing that everyone has good points to learn from. The third one is to extensively cultivate making offerings, letting go of attachments and helping others in need. We live here in the West, and sometimes we have access in the amount of things we have, possessions, etc. So having the ability to share those offerings, whatever you have, with others, even if it's just a little bit. Just like during the Buddha's time, there was a woman who wanted to offer something to the Buddha, and even though she was quite poor, she just wanted to offer a piece of fabric, a little piece of fabric. And that's now when you see the robe of a monk, you'll see there's a little like a little patch here, and that represents even if you have very little to give, you can cultivate that action of offering. And of course, the greatest offering you can offer to someone you know is your presence, and the idea of being able to help them, relieve them of their suffering. So offering your presence, we always know that our parents, they work maybe from early morning to all the way to night, and we don't have a chance to be with them because we have school, and then School occupies most of our life. We have homework, etc. And the very little time we have with our parents could be on the weekend, or even if they're working, we might not even have that time with them. And then by the time we finish high school, we go off to university, and then we don't have that time anymore to be our parents. So realizing that you may think that you have so much time, but when you really reflect, then you realize that you don't have as much as time as you think you have with your parents. So the fourth one is to repent and reform karmic obstacles. So it's kind of essentially saying, practicing introspection on what we did wrong. During that day, your actions, your speech, from the moment you wake up, you're already dealing with society, dealing with people around you, talking, actions. And those speech and action may cause, without mindfulness, can cause a lot of suffering to others. So at the end of the day, we learn to, or even during the act of speaking, before we speak, we reflect on, does the speech help others, or does it harm others? And if it harms others, then we try to refrain from saying, and if it helps others, then we can continue to say so. So knowing what we did wrong and vowing not to continue that wrongdoing. The fifth one is rejoicing in merit. So usually when someone does something good, something that we can't do, our immediate reaction is to be jealous. Oh, that person can do this, maybe this person, and then we have other perspectives and other ideas. Maybe that person is trying to do something, maybe trying to gain some kind of position. But then here in the fifth vow, rejoicing in merit, it means when that person is offering something, that person has happiness when they offer something, but we also can be happy with that person as well. So being equally happy with that person, or even more so, we can say to that person, I may not have the capacity to help that person, but I know you do, so I'm very happy that I can be happy with your offering. So the sixth one is requesting the turning of the Dharma wheel. So this means that in Buddhism we always have this Dharma wheel, like it has spokes, like a tire, and we know that a wheel has to always move forward. So in the teachings of the Buddha, in our own practice, we learn to always constantly learn the teachings. For example, when the monastics come up here and give talks and sharings, it is all based on our own experience. If you go onto YouTube, you could type down 4 Noble Truths, and you'll have maybe 50 monks or 50 nuns that will share about that same teaching, but within their own experience. So that's why you may ask yourself, why is there so many different teachings from the same teachings? And everyone has their own interpretation of that same teaching. So when you come here on a Sunday, you are essentially moving that Dharma wheel forward. We know that our seniors, they're not going to be here forever, so the young generation has to take a step forward and to come to the monastery and be in close contact with the monastics in order to turn the Dharma wheel. So the seventh vow is requesting that the Buddha remains in the world, being respectful and courteous to the sagely and virtuous. So here it's kind of saying, whenever we have guest monks come here, for example, Thaya always takes the opportunity, and Thaya always teaches us that whenever a monk comes here, it's quite rare, especially here in a small city, Edmonton. And whenever you see a monastic come here, it is almost like a Buddha coming here. So Thai always gives the guest monks opportunity to give talks, sharings for us to learn from. So I know that, I don't know if you know this, but whenever Thai travels to other parts of the world, from California to Australia to Japan, Korea, and these are the parts that I've been with Thai. And you can see that Thai is quite well known in the Buddhist community, the Vietnamese Buddhist community. If you look up some of Thai's YouTube videos, for example, there's millions of views, millions and millions of views. And whenever Thai comes to a certain part of the world, there's a lot of respect, a lot of people just want to come and see Thai in person. They always say to me, "Oh, I have always seen Thai through my screen, my computer screen or my TV screen, but now to be able to see Thai in real life, in the flesh and blood, is quite special." And I think that we are fortunate to be like the home base of Thai, and Thai is always here with us. But sometimes we kind of take that for granted. Sometimes we think that, oh, Thai is always close to us. Thai is always here. So whenever we need Thai, or whenever let's say we talk about Westlock Meditation Center, oh, it's always there. So what's the rush of seeing Thai or seeing the center? But we know that because of old age, sickness, whenever Thai is here, Thai is still teaching. We have to take this opportunity to be here, to acknowledge that we have a teacher to be here teaching us. In many parts of the world, especially America, there's a lot of empty temples, a lot of temples that are empty because there's no monk, there's no monastic to run the temple. Unfortunately, we are here, we have a beautiful center, we have Westlock Meditation Center, and to acknowledge that we have the presence of Thai and these centers for us, we have to be mindful and have gratitude. So, of course, we have to understand that the Buddha, in order to share the teachings, the very first sermon was at the Deer Park Monastery. And this is when he started the community. The Buddha had to have an audience to share the teachings, or else the Buddha would just be sharing to himself, and there would be no teachings for us to learn from. So here, maybe one person is limited, but within a community, if the monastics has a hand in sharing the teachings, it goes a long way. For example, in a summer retreat, it takes a lot of work. There's the registration team, there's the guest team, there's the cooking team, there's the transportation team, there's the cleaning up team, the washroom team. Many different teams have to come together to have a successful retreat. If it was only the registration team and no other teams, then a retreat will not be able to occur. So here, when we request the Buddhas to remain in the world, it also means that we request the community to remain in the world. And that also, you also have the responsibility to come here and to practice and learn the teachings. Without any of you coming here, then the monastics will not have anyone to share with. So that is the seventh vow of Samantha Badger Buddhist Bodhisattva. So the 8th vow is always study with the Buddhas, following the wise. So here, we may sometimes ask ourselves, what is the purpose of practicing Buddhism? Why should I practice this? And I think that aside from having inner peace, having happiness, it's much deeper than that, I think. We see the world differently. Our perspective before was quite, really cloudy, very judgmental, a lot of prejudice. But when we practice Buddhism, we learn to open our hearts more. We can see the world in a different light. And here it's kind of saying of course the ultimate goal of Buddhism is to come out of samsara, which is the cycle of birth and death. And I think that is quite a really distant goal. I don't think any of the monastics became monks so we can come out of the cycle of birth and death. But I think closer to our own practice, this cycle kind of represents our habitual energies. For example, when we get angry, one day, the next day we get happy, next day we get angry, happy, angry, happy. This becomes a cycle. There's always these cycles in our life. And the goal or the purpose of Buddhism is to recognize that we're in this cycle and finding ways to coming out of these cycles of emotions that we're going through. And of course, another purpose of Buddhism is to liberate ourselves from suffering. I think that sometimes Buddhism get a bad reputation because Buddhism is always talking about suffering. It's always suffering about this and about that. But I think it's without that suffering, we're not able to acknowledge that there's the other side of it, which is happiness. The Zen master Tenyakan always takes a marker, and he says that one end there's suffering, and the other end there's happiness, and they all live on the same marker. It's just kind of saying that our life is, in order to feel meaning and purpose in life, there always has to be both suffering and happiness. We can't live a life just full of happiness, but we can't also live a life full of suffering. So here, liberation from suffering. Another misconception is that we're always talking about the present moment, living in the here and now. And it doesn't mean that we don't plan for the future. Because once we have taken care of the present, the future will always be coming. So when we're able to take care of the present, when we are able to learn how to, for example, take care of our emotions, in the future, whenever you're dealing with difficult problems, situations, you're able to apply what you have learned before of how you dealt with your anger in that moment. When we talk about not being preoccupied about the future, means to not get lost in the future. Our life is just thinking about the future, about what we'll become, how much money we'll make, what kind of car we'll have. It's always these perpetual future thinking about the future that causes us suffer, because once we don't have these types, once we are not being fulfilled, then that's when we suffer. During the youth retreat, for example, I remember there was some people, they were expecting a 5-star resort hotel during the retreat, and they were quite disappointed that it wasn't that. And I remember during the orientation that Tai always talks about when we come to a place, to a center, to a retreat, wherever you go, you come with acceptance. If you come with expectations, you will always 100% be disappointed. So when we come to a place if you go to a home, you go to maybe visit your family in a different part of the world, if you come with expectations, you're expecting a lot of things, then you'll always be disappointed. But if you come with acceptance, then you'll be able to live well with the people around you. So here in the eighth practice, eighth vow, it talks about always study with the Buddhas. And of course, it's important that we try to apply the teachings in our life. Usually we learn something, for example, from Thai, but we don't really apply it to our life. We don't apply it to our interactions with others. We may be sitting here and maybe 5% of you might be understanding what I'm trying to say, and maybe the rest of you are just not, just waiting for Thai to come up and share in Vietnamese, or learning to apply the teachings into our life is the most important. So that is the eighth vow of Samatha Vajra Bodhisattva. So next time, I will share the last two vows. So again, to summarize, the first one is to respect all beings. The second is to see the good in others instead of the bad. The third is letting go of attachments and helping others. The fourth is to practice introspection on what we did wrong. So what we did wrong and learning to, vowing not to do again. The fifth one is being happy when someone is offering something. The sixth one is turning the Dharma wheel. The seventh one is requesting that the Buddha remains in the world. So like I shared earlier, being grateful of what we have, being grateful of Thai, of having a place to sit and to practice. Eighth is to always study with the Buddhas, following our wise teachers, and uncovering the purpose of practicing Buddhism. So next time we'll finish the 10 Samatha Vajra vows with the 9th and 10th vow. So again, thank you for listening, and we'll move, Thai will be sharing in Vietnamese next.
Is there anyone here who needs the headphone for the English translation? Just please raise your hand, and the monks will walk around and provide you the headphone. Cảm ơn Thầy Đức Tạng. Thưa đại chúng, bây giờ chúng ta bắt đầu buổi sinh hoạt bằng tiếng Việt. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Kính thưa đại chúng, hôm nay là sáng Chủ nhật